Welcome back to the royal drama in the archives of Trevosa. And there is indeed plenty of drama because what we've learned so far is that in this initial family generations that at least we have to deal with, one of the Amoth brothers was basically exiled out of the kingdom that they live in, and then the other one got married to Overd and they basically declare her queen and she's in charge. But then immediately after that, the next generation, those kids are fighting each other hard. There's passive-aggressive letters, skipping people's weddings and other important family events. And then there's been some sort of disagreement about the daughter of Child Caldosa not being able to be the next ruler because she was adopted, and therefore her brother Corvin fought her so that his son Lamol became the next ruler, which then somehow leads to Caldosa marrying a grandchild of the exiled member of the family, and then eventually their child is the next ruler, and apparently that caused a bunch of chaos in the kingdom. They had to once again release them from the rule and get rid of them. So plenty drama is happening here, and we've got to uncover the rest of it. I've got 9 people that are full on logged in out of the 30. I've got lots of first names, not a lot of titles. Although in some cases I just have the titles and not the names. So we gotta fill that in. I have also went through and reorganized my notes into a separate notepad because the game doesn't have a way for us to enter the translations and for them to then appear within the text. It's better that I can have the notepad side by side rather than switching tabs. Not much has changed in terms of my understanding of those words. I mostly organized them in groups, so I can now confirm that there's definitely female, male, and neutral forms of certain words. The one thing I did mainly change is the Beline and Belon. I was kind of struggling with it last time, being is it a fiancé, is it a spouse? But actually, I think the only context it comes up with is when it talks about the spouse of a ruler, and the word for that specifically is consort. So I'm going with that for now, and then I have Bervet as the spouse because that comes up more often when they talk about marrying people. So hopefully that will clear things up a little bit for me, and as we go it will be easier to refer to those words. One document that we have that I wanted to go back to is the signal, which is one of the very first things we receive in the game. It is addressed to Asalam and is basically asking to resolve the issues they have with the line of succession. So I presume it is some sort of title of some sort of elder, wise person that they would trust to address those sort of things. And the note says, I am Ludir, Olaf Till, so that's first son of Orlef, that's a first name, Sino Tayen. That's Sino is a ruler and Tayen is the number 8, right? Which now we know it refers to this guy here, Sino Tayen. I've read it at the start of the game. I didn't know anything at the time, so I was just oh, that's a lot of words I don't know nothing about. But that therefore points us to the fact that this guy here, it's Orlef, because he's the Sino Tayen. And the person writing this, Ludir, is the first son, which he only has one son, which means this person here is Ludir. That's a couple extra names. But from here, I think we're just gonna go and try to find more information, right? Going from the top, can we learn more about the people that we have names for? Because I think that's a useful thing to search for. So we can go back, see if there's anything more about Seldei. No, that's just the documents we've already learned. What about Lemal? Obviously, it's only first 3 results are shown, so there might be more documents, but we have to access them somewhere differently. Okay, we have 2 new things. So there's the adopted heir, so that will be talking about the child here, Caldosa, I assume. Estin Tal Sunaivol, so that's her here, the second ruler. And her Beirut, that's the husband. I actually had this wrong here. Beirut is the husband, Vervet is a neutral spouse. Her husband Lamal decreed to all their kingdom their full intent to name their Oloftil, so their first daughter, Caldosa as Sinayen, so the third ruler, of Trevosa when she comes of age and completes her Olisata. Olisata, as far as I can tell, is basically some sort of coming of age ritual or test they do, because they've talked about it a couple of times of they've just completed the Olisata and they've got a job or something like that. Those who whisper of her tainted blood as an outsider are Vaiteth. I've got that translated as some sort of traitor because that's the sort of context that words appear in. So are traitor to all of the kingdom and risk severe penalty. And it does happen, right? Lemod becomes Sinoyen, so he becomes the third ruler. But somehow Kaldosa then marries into the Exiles, and her husband then becomes the fourth ruler because I assume even though he's child of an exile, the rules still allow for him. So that's how she ends up still being part of the royal family anyway. So then we have the Ward Crown Sino. So there was some sort of war for someone to be declared ruler. Tam of Navoleth, Conqueror of Trevosa and Heir of Beasts. Okay, I already have this guy here as Heir of Beasts because there was conversation about this before. So that means his name is Novoleth. And it pops in because I've previously had all the Curator, Bashil the Explorer, and Novoleth the Heir of Beasts. Yep, there we go. So that's up to 12. Was officially recognized as Sinolay, so the fourth ruler, by Estin Valerian and Jorent Valerian in season 95. So the other families have accepted it. In the same season, Tamoth Noveleth Sinolay announced his intent to name Kaldosa as his Bervate and Belaine. So yes, he becomes ruler and he marries Kaldosa. She becomes his wife and the consort. Her family connections, even though they are adoptive rather than blood, lend validity to his reign over Trevosa. So they two married and she's the adopted descendants of Tal, the previous ruler. Kaldosa Salo, Yoret Lemalia, so that's her father. Expressed that Estin Tal's Naivol would be pleased to see her Olaf as a ruler. So he's saying Tal would be happy that her daughter has become the ruler. That means that Tal has since died, right? Because he's just speaking for her. Okay, so now we know how he came about to become the ruler, right? He somehow conquered Trevosa. He returned from exile, he attacked, and that's how he finds himself on the throne. We don't know nothing about his mother, and we could maybe find out more about Kaldosa as well. Okay, nothing new here. What about his name? Nolveth. Okay, we get Catalog of Beasts. A Catalog of Beasts by Tamoth Nolveth. Yvset, a speedy creature with wings, mostly harmless, but will eat food that is not protected. Sealot, digs blindly in the air, useless. Masset, size of a tevei, that's the word I have for like just people. So it's basically size of a person. Soft fur with a tail that looks like a lot like a sealot. There is perhaps an opportunity to use this someday. Fset, no arms or legs, only spine, scales, and teeth, too large and dangerous. Fanat, small but unflinching, with great strength and many legs, capable of great coordination. With our training, I believe this will be the key to our retaking of Trevosa. Okay, this confirms what I thought about the first time I played this game, where I was like, are those people some sort of fairies or gnomes or something like that? It just gives that big vibe of like, how is this kingdom hidden, right? And basically what they're describing here is like, Yvset, maybe a fly of some sort, Sealot, a worm, Masset, like if it's the size of a person, has a soft fur and the tail looks like a worm, that's basically a rat, right? So they're people size of rats. Fset is a snake, and Fanat, I think it's a spider, right? So he's basically saying that they can train spiders and then ride upon the kingdom to conquer it. So yeah, I previously had a Yvset as something to chase on an expedition, because it was mentioned in like the context of Bashil going on expedition and chasing them. So they were basically like hunting flies. Okay, added that to my translations. So yes, that's an interesting piece of lore because it confirms my suspicions that those are not humans. And then we have The War Began. In the 88th season, Tamoth Nolveth, the Oliver Bravo of Tamoth Faith. So that's great-grandchild of the exile. Returned from exiled. With an army of mighty, many-legged fanats of spiders, he marched through the great threshold opened by someone inside the kingdom and began a brutal assault. Beasts have never been harnessed for warfare, but Nolveth, Olaftil of exile, was heir of beasts. Yes, that's how he becomes the heir of beasts, right? Because he's able to tame them. And then they call him Olaf Till. So it basically calls him first son of the exile because the person one up is a daughter. Also, the war lasted quite a bit because he attacked in the 88 seasons, but I think it said like it was 96 by the time he was recognized the ruler. We don't know whether seasons are like seasons in the year, so there's 4 of them per year, or they're full years. Could be another measure of time, right? Could be they're small fairies. Could be a season is just like a couple days. Yes, it was season 95 when he was crowned. So it wasn't like straight away he overran them with spider. They fought at least for a bit. We can also look up his title, right? He's Sinolay. Because yeah, that can bring up other documents where he's referred to as that. So we have the opening. The great threshold is open. Take your spider army and march into the kingdom. Claim the title of the 4th ruler. So long as my first daughter becomes the consort, I welcome the invasion. This was written by Tal. No matter what the people say of her blood, she is my heart, and I will see her rule. Okay, so she was like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. You can run this kingdom down, attack with your spiders. My daughter must become ruler. And I mean, at least he kept his word in that situation. He did marry her, and then they were rulers, and then their child was also ruler, although that did end too well. So naughty, naughty Tal. Drama. And then we have proclamation of a new era. I, Tamoth, Nyreen, sign Ta. So that's now Nyreen here, the daughter of the heir of beast. She's the 5th ruler. Yes, child of Tamoth, Nolveth, Sinolay, and Olef Obrawo. That means grandchild of Tamoth Telai. That means this woman here is called Telai. I did notice that now that I've sorted the words into the various gendered forms, so there is a female form, male form, and neutral form, I did notice that some of them use actually the neutral form of words, now that I've sorted out that this is actually the case. So both sign is the neutral form of ruler, and then the Olefo Bravo just uses the neutral form of child rather than son and daughter. So that's basically them using neutral pronouns as well, which I didn't probably get right all across my other recording and maybe even at the start of this one, because I didn't quite make the connections between the grammar. So I'll try to stick to that now so that I'm describing everyone correctly. So they give the following decree. My Talo, so my father harnessed the power of spiders to retake the kingdom. We shall push further. We will train the flies above us to fight and the snakes below us to forage. We will harness beasts to launch Trevosa into a new era. Okay, so they were like, basically, yes, we need to use the beasts for the kingdom, but is the reason that they were overthrown as a ruler is that their ideas were impractical. So whatever they were trying to do with the beasts just did not work, and the kingdom was in trouble. I'm trying to look for any clues as to what their titles may be, because they're not always just spelled out, but nothing here is quite ringing out to me. Like, we do have the usurper's heir as a possibility, but I get the feeling I tried it for them and it didn't work before. Interestingly, we have the gate opener, but Tal already has hair title set in, so it wouldn't be hair. But I don't know, maybe Keldosa was involved, and she might be the gate opener, but again, I have no proof right now that this is the case. I guess now that we know about Telai, we can try and look her up. Nothing new here, but the Bashir's journal on the exile Telai, I don't remember this. It might be because previously, when I was playing the first time, I was having this problem, like I was trying to copy the names, but instead the game would decide that I clicked on a term and it would search it, and then documents would show up, and then I would go back, and I may have basically missed this. So let's see what this says. I will record her name here in my journal. Tamoth Telaya, so that's her here. On my expedition across the arid lands, I met the most unlikely of travelers. My Talos Selite on an expedition of her own. So it's her father's niece, which makes sense, because her father is brother to Thief the Exile, and that would be So she's basically your cousin. Still, the first daughter of a traitor and an exile, her story of our families was twisted and poisoned. But regardless of lies she's been taught, she had a kind heart and spoke of contentment with her life in the field of beasts. She was not interested in reconciliation, only the rations I had available to trade. Perhaps she will not be remembered in our to say, so that's like documents, archives. But she lives a life so much simpler than my own. I envy her. I would rather be forgotten to history than beholden to its expectations. I pray all the exiles will likewise be complacent with their lot in life. Well, clearly they were not, right? Clearly they have staged their revenge later on. But yes, Bashil is over here, the explorer. So yeah, there was talk of her like ignoring her family because she just wanted to go on her expeditions. But then the second document is what we've just read before. Okay, so nothing new if I look up the names of the people around here or like their titles. So we're back to like trying a mafia, and we don't know what the daughter of Lemot and Tyrell is even called. But let's see if we can bring anything new up. Okay, so nothing for this generation here. Then we go down to Roal. Okay, there are new notes for him here. Tutoring notes. Estine Arana is sweet and energetic, but an unfocused student. She is much more at home outside, chasing flies. She attempts to be studious, but she clearly lacks the focus for true scholarly greatness. Estine Royal is much more academic than his Sevale. Okay, so I have Sevale as a sibling, and again, following the grammar rules, Sevale makes sense as a sister. Sevale is actually the male form, and then there will be something like Sevale for the neutral, but yes, this will be sister, which means Arana is here, right? Because that's the sister of Royal. He's much more academic than his sister and loves to challenge what he reads. While this can be tiresome during lessons, I believe it will make him an excellent Sino, so excellent ruler and administrator. Okay, do we have anything about being very studious? Not really. Although I noticed that we have the Forgotten, so I do wonder whether that's the title for Telai. Right, because the way Bashil spoke about her, like, oh, she will not be remembered in our documents, right? So that might be her title. I'll just leave it here for now. We will need more to confirm. And then we have the royal baby announcement. My son, Yorit Orlev, so he's down here, and his wife welcomed their first child today, a beautiful son called Ludir. Okay, so this is what we just got at the start. Right, Ludir was writing that letter. That's how I know his name already. We and the people wish them great health at the start of their journey as father and mother. And this was written by Roal. Okay, yeah, so that's kind of repeated information. We've already had all of those names. We just learned about Arana, so let's see if she brings anything out. Yes, personal note. The Yored Solel Belaine, so that's the wife to Roal. Birth rate of my Levov. So yes, it's saying Soleil Belaine, so the consort Solil, spouse of my Lvov. Lvov is another word where I'm like not quite sure what they mean, because I have the words for like a sibling, right, sister, brother already in the Seville. And then there's a bunch of places where, yes, basically people are referred to Lvev and Lvov, and it clearly implies like family relation. But then there's also a letter that someone signed off, my Lvev, which is like from one of the sisters, I think, Talon Bashil. So it's like, it seems to fit within the sibling relation, but at the same time, why is there different words for siblings, right? So I just have it as a relation. Don't worry about feeling lost. Each of our Liveth, so again, the relation of, or actually each of our brothers then, because Arana has a brother Roal and Solel has a brother Morphal. So yes, it does feel like we're still talking about siblings, even though I have another word for a sibling. So each of our brothers are shining so brightly that there's no way for us to eclipse them. Focus instead of what you want. I have embraced my role as the royal rider and devote my energy to making sure everyone who wants to can ride Maset, so can ride rats and venture forth into the world. Okay, so somehow since the era of the beast, they have managed to tame the rats and turn them into rideable mounts. Okay, but the Royal Rider, I'm pretty sure there is a title for that. Yes, the Royal Rider. So that's Arana writing this. And then Salil, we learned last time out, Morphol, the Quartermaster, he was like having a performance review and he was doing amazingly. And they were recommending him for awards and stuff like that. I have heard your gifts of song, and some in the palace refer to you as one of the singing great birds. Embrace your talents and show us what you can do, unburdened by conventional expectations. Okay, so there is also the songbird. And there we go. That's another free solve. Yes, we have the Light Forgotten, so that was correct. The Royal Rider and the songbird. So that's 15. We're halfway through. But I also feel like after kind of reviewing the notes about the words, I can understand a lot more when I'm reading the documents, so that feels nice. Okay, let's continue with the name searching. I guess Salil is next. We have Royal Valerian family, so Royal family obituary. We mourn the death of Yored Sartina, mother of Yored Solil Belain. Okay, so mother of Solil the consort, which means her name here is Sartina. She was the missing link we had after Lemot. After completing her Olasata near the end of the Fanat War, so near the end of her like test that they have to complete to be deemed worthy of being in the society, of getting their titles, and then near the end of the Spider War. She split from her father when he was forced into exile by the usurpation by the Heir of Beasts. So, yes, he was run out by the war, right? Because Nolvath attacked with the spiders, and that's how he became ruler, right? The other king was exiled. Her Varve Tabeir, that's wedding, was performed in secret so as to not attract the attention of the fourth ruler, so the Heir of Beasts. And she and her family lived on the periphery, scouting the edges of Trevosa. Okay, so we don't even get to know who she married, but she married someone in secret. In 161, she discovered a new foraging ground that led to the Era of Plenty. Okay, so the year has now moved, like the season has now moved on to 161, which is over 60 seasons after Nolvev becomes king. So either, yes, those are quite short time units, or a lot of time has passed. She discovered a new foraging ground that led to the Era of Plenty. Her first son went on to develop the rat transit solution that made it even more accessible. Her children remember her warmly, and her grandchildren will miss her. Okay, so yeah, because that's her obituary, she died. So she found a new foraging ground so that they could have more food. And yes, her son Morphol, that again was super praised in that performance review. He managed to make a rat transportation system. That's why he was so highly praised, right? Because that was a great benefit to the kingdom. But yeah, I think mostly what we learn here is her name, although is there a title we can give her from these? Because I previously, I think, gave Amav the Prosperous because when she came on the throne, the Era of Plenty began. But maybe is Sartina the Prosperous because she was the reason the prosperity came by, right? She discovered the foraging ground. If I look up her name, yes, that's actually 3 new things. War and sickness. In season 90, amidst the devastation of the Spider War, Yored Terrail, so that's her father, Yored Terrail consort, came down with a sickness that took their life. Okay, so yeah, he died in the war, but it wasn't due to the war. Their last interpretation of a Solam omen was as follows. Yes, because he's the seer, he was like interpreting the signs. The grandchild of exiles will win and reign, but their child someday will lose. Okay, so he predicts that the Heir of Beasts will win now, but in the future, they will lose the throne again. Their prophecy gave little comfort to their spouse, the third ruler, and their daughter, Sartina. Yes, because they're basically saying, yep, sorry, you're gonna lose this part, and then only in the future we will be able to restore the rule. Then we have Yored Lemot's last words, so that's the ruler here, the third ruler. Sartina, I will not live to see the Yored family restored to be rulers. Live well regardless. May you find a husband, a wife, or a spouse that mixes and rises with you like the smoke of a candle, yes. So here it specifically calls out the different forms of the spouse, and they're like, you know, any gender works, just as long as you're happy, your lives together are good. Trust in the goodness of all Salam and heed their omens. So yes, the Salam are some sort of wise people that they refer to. Let it be written, then I was vanquished in battle, but never in spirit. Then he got exiled. I do wonder what sort of title for him we would have. I mean, the vanquished, right? Because he says, I was vanquished, so maybe that. And then we have scouting report. Yored Sartina, the daughter of Yored Lemot and Yored Terrail, has found a huge supply of food. The new Salam Valerans. Okay, Salam, I was saying, like, those are some sort of wise people, and Valeran is family? Okay, not quite sure what's going on with that one yet. Grants us bread and other staples near the hollow place. She is the wayward no longer. Okay, so she was not the prosperous, she was the wayward. I assume their titles do not change, even though, like, they've been saying she is the wayward no longer. Actually, that's her title. Like, you just get assigned one and that's it. I think that might be something that happens at your Olisata, right? Where they give you a title and you have to stick with it for life. The food is very far from our homes, so a council should be called to determine the best plan of action is. And then they decide where they can transport it with the rats. Okay, but I currently only have still 2 people fully entered that are waiting for confirmation, so I need to find some titles for the people I have names for and see if things pop in. Okay, so who's next to look up? Okay, Morphal. That brings up the performance evaluation, but it also brings up security check. Security Minister. While the Tamil family was behind the Spider War and following disasters, not all of them were complicit. Like all large families, there are many branches and some choose to stay out of the conflict or side against the main branch. Tamil of Narset, so that's the wife, comes from one of those branches. As far as we can tell, she chose to live on the outskirts and stayed out of the factional politics for generations. Narset herself is eccentric compared to most nobles, choosing to sew her own clothes even though she can easily pay for a tailor. However, she shows no signs or links to any potential rebellion, so the guards have no objection to her marriage to Morphal. Yeah, Guard Division 4 scribble, yes, because as we can see here, while Faith was exiled, his brother did become the consort in the first family, but after that, because the mother gives the name, there are actually no Tamoth in those generations. They're only from the exile side, right? So by that time down here, I guess the Tamoth name becomes a bit of a, you know, you might be the traitors, we're not sure about you, but I guess she is able to marry into the family and bring the name back, even if only for a few generations, and then there is trouble again, apparently. But it talks about her being eccentric, so I assume she's the eccentric. Yes, okay, so that's Lemot the Vanquished, Certina the Wayward, and Narset the Eccentric. Okay, well, while we're here, how about we look her up? Okay, nothing new. That's all the mentions. Like, there isn't even a third document. She doesn't get mentioned in anything else. Okay, so down another layer, we get to Lisna. There is a couple new things. The Reign of the Stalwart, Part 1. The 8th ruler earned his moniker, the Stalwart. Okay, so we're talking about Orlev here, so that's gonna be his title. By steering the Trevosa through the biggest and longer crisis since the Spider War. The crisis was caused by the appearance of the Niset. Okay, so I have Niset as some sort of enemies or traitors, but again, it overlaps with the Vited that I also have as traitors. So I may still have to figure out what exactly does that mean. By appearance of the Niset and the severing of their courier line through the hollow place. Okay, so some sort of attack that disrupts the rat courier line from the food place that they discovered. We immediately learned that the beast could not stay away from our Maset. Okay, so they're talking about the beast wouldn't stay away from the rats. Is it a cat? I'm not sure why I had it as traitors. Is it basically a cat that's been added? Like, the people who live basically where those fairies are like, there's been awfully lots of rats, like, just running around. Maybe we should get a cat. And that's the danger to the kingdom? When our brave warriors tried to protect the rats, the cat swatted at them with ease. This caused such devastation that attempts to confront the cat were quickly abandoned. Listener Belaine, so we know about Listener the nurse, she's already locked in, led the efforts to care for the wounded, leading to the moniker the nurse, yes. Okay, so yes, I think Nysette is a cat. Now, the reason I had it as like traitor or something is because of some other document. I mean, I can just look up Nysette and then we'll come back here. Yes, the diary entry. Yes, it says, I can see why she was called the nurse back during the battle against the Nysette. So I've assumed to be like some sort of enemy traitors, right? But now I think we're basically talking about a house cat. There will be more to read about the Nysette, so we'll come back here, but let's read that one extra listener document. Letter to Taliso, letter to Mother. Dear Mother, I'm writing to let you know that Lonara and I had Varvey Taber yesterday. So that's, again, a wedding party. It's been 4 seasons since Lonara completed her Olesata, their test, whatever you want to call it, and we refuse to wait for your blessing any longer. So Listener Belaine, so Listener here and Belaine being the consort, that all makes sense, was generous enough to take on the role during the wedding instead. I repeat again that it's been 3 generations since the restoration, and there is no question of Tamov family loyalty to Trevosa. Lonara in particular is the granddaughter of the quartermaster, whose lineage goes all the way back to the sibling of the second ruler. Even if none of that were true, it should be enough that Lonara is dedicated, hardworking, and creative, and I love her. I trust you will come to terms with this. Your son, Yored Temeg. Okay, so this is written by this guy here. So his name is Temeg. So he's basically saying, oh, his parents, they don't want to approve of a marriage to Atamov. They don't trust him, even though the kingdom was reunified. But because Lisna, the queen consort, is the godparent, I also put down mentor of Lonara, right? That's gonna be her name here. He's saying, well, if the queen says we're good to marry, we're gonna marry regardless of what my parents say. Okay, he talks about her qualities, right? She's dedicated, hardworking, and creative. Does that lead us to any title? Not exactly. I mean, we also have just a newlywed. That could be a title for one of them, but not quite sure yet. But okay, at least we have their name, which means we can look them up. But we're going back to look up the cat. So we have the monster. All reports from yesterday's attacks are finally in. And here is the synthesized summary. In the early afternoon, the second patrol left as normal to head to the foraging grounds. No incidents occurred while traveling through crevices, but a second after we emerged into the hollow place, the team was attacked by a massive monster. It leapt upon us from above, grabbing one of the pack rats and bounding away before we could even think. The other rats bolted back immediately, with its rider holding on for dear life. No people were hurt. We are calling it the Nysette, and we need to decide what to do next. Guard office clerk. Yes, so that's their first encounter with the cat. So now I'm thinking like they might live outside, so they're like garden fairies. Then like the crevices are basically ways to go in between the walls and in the cracks of the house, and then the hollow place is the inside of the house, right? So it's like big rooms inside the building, because obviously they're very small, just size of rats or smaller. So I'm getting a picture of how this whole kingdom looks. But yes, that's also why they're like, oh, there's so much food, right? Because they're stealing from the humans that live in the house, and they're like, okay, we're gonna get a cat and deal with it. And we have the Great Outlev proposal. Today, the only access to the fertile foraging ground requires moving long distances through open spaces, yet the arrival of the cat stops us from using rats to carry loads across. I propose we open a new covered route to the foraging ground. An extensive survey is needed, but early examination shows that we could tunnel beneath the massive caverns of the Solam to reach an area very near the foraging grounds, all out of reach of the cat. It's a project on a scale the people have never attempted, but it might be our best chance. Tamov Ervala, okay. So that might be her here, because we don't have any other Tamov that are unnamed left. But yes, they're planning new ways to break into the house. But I would like to mention that nothing is out of reach of the cat. The cat will get wherever the cat wants to get. Okay, so we can name her Ervala. So we can immediately look her up, because maybe we can learn her title or the name of her husband, because he already has a title, so that would also get us closer to the next confirmation. So we have the plea from the Sino, Yoret Erlov. Okay, so that's a new person as well. That's a Yoret, so that might be actually him. My far distant relative. I'm asking you to put your dream on hold. I know there's no greater sacrifice to ask of someone, but we all need the great Otlev to work. Okay, Otlev, some sort of thing they're planning to do or build, like how they're getting the food. It's the only way we have found to avert a famine before we run out of stockpiled food. Your wife, Tamov Ervala. Yes, okay, so this guy's name is Erlov. So your wife Elvira spends every waking minute on excavations to the point she's being named after the earth for living underground. Do everything you can to support her in this. We're all counting on you too. Yoret Orlev, so the stalwart, and the 8th ruler. Okay, so she's being named after the earth, and there is the Ervin. And yes, that's 3 more people confirmed. But there is another document about the reign of the stalwart. Knowing the severity of the situation, the Sino-Tayen, so again the 8th ruler, Orlev, directed the people to find different sources of food. Some marginal areas were able to be cultivated, but the largest effort went into scouting for places to forage far away from the cat and the hollow place. Nothing of note was discovered. The project that led to relief was the Great Oltev. The rats cannot cross the hollow place, so we created closed spaces. As decreed by the 8th ruler, Yored Erlov set aside his inventions that were intended to take to the air and instead spent 7 seasons working beside Tamov Ervara to build lifts and tunnel a great distance. The Oltev is longer than previous routes, but contains nothing more dangerous than the occasional eyeless zealot, so like a worm, crawling through the tunnel. We no longer need fear losing access to food. Okay, so their big thing was basically building a giant tunnel into the house to where the food is so that the cat can't get them. So they called it the Oltev. But that doesn't actually bring up anything new when we look that up. So now we're at 20 out of 30 people, so basically just over 2/3 in. So we gotta complete 9 more, and actually, as far as I know, I got everyone's name, which means we're now into digging and working out the titles. We're still missing a few of the documents because we have 42 out of 49, so there isn't that much more to find. We just have to narrow down the correct words I haven't yet selected in some of those documents, and then do the thinking about what the titles of those people might be, right? Because we have the Bloodless, the False Heir, the Gate Opener, the Newlywed, the Prosperous, the Restorer, the Soft Voice, the True Heir, and the Usurper's Heir. It feels like the Gate Opener, the True Heir, the Usurper's Heir, this may, like, some of them here might be called that, right? Maybe Caldosa opened the gate. Maybe Nyreen is the false heir or something like that. But I would like to see some confirmation of those before I start like guessing. So let me see what I can look up. Okay, so looking up Orlev, the 8th ruler, gives us great expectations. Yored Orlev will ascend to the throne with great hopes for his reign. After his grandmother the Restorer and his father the Prosperous. Okay, that should give us titles, right? So we know that his grandmother was the Restorer, so that's a math, and his father the Prosperous, so Roal is the Prosperous. The people expect great things from him. All eyes now follow the soon-to-be 8th ruler. Well, that was nice and direct about the titles. Okay, so we need 1 more to get a confirmation, but those were quite like, it's those people, so hopefully I got them right. Okay, so looking up Talay, which is just the number 9, gives us a transit solution report. I am basically going through and I'm gonna just search the words I have, right? Because that's the various terms that we're supposed to find out about. As requested in Royal Directive 9, a rat has been harnessed to provide rapid transportation as a mount. This has allowed mounted gatherers to bring back much greater quantities of food than we have seen prior to this era. The rat is a mostly docile beast, though stepping on its thin, bald tail can cause it to lash out. The quartermaster might be young, but has instituted a rigorous training program to train couriers in rat riding and care. This gives us much better access to the food supplies that his mother so famously found. Okay, nothing new really, we already understood this whole rat transportation situation. Okay, so looking up sign, which is the word for ruler, we get the rules of succession, which maybe finally explain how the crown moves. I already made the assumption that I was like the youngest child, but let's confirm. When the current ruler dies or is no longer able to perform their duties, their youngest child, yes, okay, I got that right, who has a spouse, okay, that's extra lures, or is betrothed and has passed their olisata, so their hest, is heir and shall become the ruler. If they do not have a child that is suitable heir, then succession passes to their youngest sibling or that sibling's descendants if needed. So you have to be married at the time of the succession passing in order to inherit the title, which means while the youngest is the default choice, being unmarried will discount them from the process. So like at the bottom here, right, because presumably Orlev has passed away now or is about to pass away, and we have this new generation here of people that in theory Luther could be inheritor, but Luther is not married, right? Which means there is a possibility of like, okay, he doesn't have any siblings, but then does the basically line of succession go back up until we find someone, right? Like, because Lamont was king, then it could follow the Certina line and then all the way down, and actually it would be Lonara, who is now married, that should inherit the crown, and Temik would become Belon, the consort. So yeah, Luther that's writing this letter at the start, he's like, tell us who should it be, but if I understand it right, it should be Lonara. Anyway, a few more documents before we know we have everything that we could possibly use. Okay, looking at Pervot, which is the husband, we have letter about rumors. It's a lady. Okay, so this is all the way up here, second generation. She's married into the family. I am not a toady, okay? I don't know what that means. I know where these rumors about me originated. Your outward visage of a kind and quiet mother is as flimsy as your husband's vain beauty. In reality, he is insecure, and you are Efset, which is snake, so they're basically calling her a deceitful liar. My days of exploration have passed, and yet the rumblings of my disloyalty continue. They say I might open the great threshold at any moment. No, I am not friends with exiles. If you fear a betrayal at the hands of family, I suggest you look elsewhere. Okay, so this was written by Bashil because she would go and explore around the fields, and obviously she met Talai, but we know that it wasn't her, right? It was Tal and Caldosa's doing that the gates were open and the exiles attacked. So Todi may be something like, I'm not stupid, I know who started those rumors. It doesn't bring up any other things, it goes back to the rules. And yeah, it says only Todi sleep without an aside watcher, so again, only stupid people don't have a guard when they sleep. Okay, so when I look up Lvov, which I think is male sibling, although that one I wasn't quite sure, because there's overlap with other words. We get the letter to the exile. No, I have not forgotten you, brother. I remember your ambition. I remember your bitterness. I remember your cruelty. I have new title to live up to, and it's incompatible with what our family has stood for. I hope if you are not stepped on by a Salam, that the field of beasts will, with time, teach you and my former kin humility. Okay, so this is written by Besit, I guess to Faith, right? To the exile, and he's like, I have not forgotten your brother. And it's like, I have a title to live up to, which is the peaceable, right? So no fighting. Now that I read this about if you're not stepped on by a Salam, I wonder if it's like, Salam are basically humans. Like, I thought they were some sort of, it was some sort of title, like a wise person, but then I also have like Salam go up to the heights, and they read the omens from the Salam. So does that mean basically humans, because they could step on you and all that stuff? But then what is it about like the omens? Yeah, at night when the Salam go up to the heights, and Salam omen. Yeah, because the signal says to the great Salam, right? So it's something that they speaking to them? But is it basically, yeah, let your omen bring us peace? Is it basically Ludir reaching us to the humans? We are the human. They're living in our house and they're like, we need you to help. We've been living near your house this entire time and stealing your supplies, but now you need to send us an omen and help us with our own mess. So yeah, maybe that's what it is. 2 more documents. Okay, looking up Tisite, so that's documents. I get the Scepter crisis. I wanted documents, I got documents. After the success of the Great Altef, so that's the tunnel they built into the house, efforts were made to explore the other deep chasm. In the depths of one such chasm, in a den of silots, so worms, the surveyors found the royal scepter that was forged for the first ruler, but disappeared during the Spider War. We curators were ecstatic at the find and spent an entire season cleaning and restoring it. Inscribed on the scepter are the words, "The conquered secures the rule of the rightful ruler." Its return prompted the original founding Concord and the rules of succession to be fetched from the archives, which led to chaos in the court upon the determination that no ruler since the third ruler has been a legitimate descendant and heir of the first ruler, including the restorer and her line. The 8th ruler stood firm, decreeing that for the stability of Trevosa, his line will continue to rule. Only if there's no suitable heir will the crown and scepter be returned to the line of the first ruler. Okay, so basically Orlef is like, my child will inherit the rule, even though he's breaking the rule, right? He is breaking the rule because he is not married. So yes, the last legitimate ruler was the third one, Solemod, because yes, he was a descendant of the first ruler. His parents, yeah, they got married, and he was their actual descendant. But after that, yes, there was a ruler due to the war, then their child become a ruler, but obviously they just don't count as the legitimate heir. Then after that, yeah, the restorer, we don't even know what her line is, right? She's not at all related to the original royal family, but the crown then passes along her line, where actually it sounds like, yeah, it should be passing down Sertina's line all the way down to Lonara. So now I just have to find the one more document I'm missing and figure out what's with the titles. So Divisive, the word I had for like traitors or something like that, it gives us the shout of war. The shouted words which echoed the start of the violent new era. Lemot Sainoyen, Tyrell Belin, the great threshold has been opened, and the Tamil Vaiteth march forward. Okay, well, not much information here. So that means all of the title situation, it's hidden in the things I've already read, right? I'm just now up on all the documents. There's nothing more to find. Okay, so what can we say? I mean, we have Caldosa. I think she might be the gate opener then, right? Like, if she was involved in this betrayal and letting the Tamil exiles back in during the Spider War, then it just makes sense that that would be her title. And then it does feel like Nyreen should be the usurper's heir. Unless the usurper's heir and the true heir are the titles to use at the bottom here, right? Because we're saying the succession has been incorrect for generations, and now we would say Lonara is the true heir. Yes, okay, so it's Amav the Restorer, Royal the Prosperous, and Lonara the true heir. But that means Ludimir could be the usurper's heir instead, right? Because even if Orlef didn't intend to, right? He obviously didn't know it at the time. He is the usurper because the lines of successions are incorrect. Or, oh yeah, we also have the false heir though. Like, we have to tell between them. Because yes, Caldosa, the gate opener, that did not confirm when I added it. So she might also be the false heir, right? Because she was not related by blood. So then we have Temig. His title could be the newlywed, right? Because the only thing about him, yes, is the letter that he writes to his mother to say, hey, I got married, whether you approve of it or not. And as far as I can tell, there isn't anything more about him. So is he just the newlywed? Well, I won't know yet, because that's not free of them. Because we also have Lemal without a title. So he's mentioned in the letter that his wife writes to Pershil. but doesn't really talk about him as much, right? It's about their business. There is the tainted blood. So maybe she's the bloodless. Maybe that's because I was thinking the bloodless more in a like, you know, they didn't spill any blood. They were a peaceful ruler, but maybe we're talking the bloodless in the sense of she didn't have the family blood. She was not part of the royal family. And then Lamal is mentioned when Caldosa becomes queen through marrying Nolveth after his conquer. Yes, again, back to the adoptive rather than by blood. So maybe the bloodless works. Now I'm like, did I misread the gate opening? I thought Tal betrayed the family. Could it have been Lamal that done it? Because yeah, Tal dies in a hunting accident, and then they're talking about Corvin would be the next one to inherit, but he says his son is gonna get married and then he can inherit, right? So Tal is actually dead. Tal is dead before Nolveth attacks. So I think that note about the gate opening, the threshold opening, is from Lamal. So I have falsely accused Tal of doing it, completely ignoring Lamal. So actually, he is the gate opener. Yeah, there we go. And Caldosa the Bloodless, and Timik is indeed the newlywed. So we have the false heir, the soft voice, and the usurper's heir. So I think it's between Luder and Irene on the who's the false heir, who's the usurper's heir. Oh, and then we have Celedi. She's gonna definitely be the soft voice because there was reference to her like not saying much, like barely heard her speak at all or something like that. Yes, Celedi, I have never heard you speak ill of my level. I have barely heard you speak at all. Right, so I think the soft voice works here. So is he the usurper's heir or is Irene the usurper's heir? I'm thinking Luder is probably the false heir, right? If Blonara was the true heir, then false heir made sense, and Irene was simply the usurper's heir after Nolveth. There you go. Thank you, Salam. Although this is not the answer that I or my Tala would have wished. So without a spouse, I cannot claim the crown or scepter. Blonara, Sinai, Tale, so the 10th ruler, Rolonara, will be a dedicated ruler and bring stability to Trevosa. Although the Tave, the people, are beneath you in every sense, you care for our history is apparent. Thank you. I have one last request. Please watch where you tread and keep your furry nice set well fed. Little dear. Yeah, so we basically befriended the fairies in our garden and they're being like, please save our kingdom, please keep your cat from killing us. But yes, for garden fairies, they've got a lot of drama going on, you know, exiling people, arguing about who gets to be ruler, where yes, they have bigger problems literally to worry about. Cats, people, all those things. And, you know, they need to figure out a way to stop squabbling and just deal with the more important things. But we've done it. We've named the whole family line and decided who the true new ruler should be. That is Lonara. The crown was restored to the family line after a few generations. And that's the game. Obviously a little shorter than Roottrees because this is just a small indie game. But yes, this was a lot of fun. As I said last time, my only complaint about this game is that you cannot assign the translations to the words and then have them show up as you read the documents, but having basically my own notebook on the side sort of solves this problem. So hopefully this time I was a bit more fluent in like reading the documents and understanding what they said. Thank you so much for watching and hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you did, consider liking or subscribing. And as always, thank you to all the channel members for supporting the channel. Bye bye!